Hello and welcome back to the channel with me, the Orienteering Kid, where today we're in South Moravia for day 7 of the TORUS training week. Yes, we are here on the last day of what has been a very interesting week of TORUS training. The competitions have varied across the days with different types of terrain and environments, and I've enjoyed every day. I think they've all been really good fun. The experienced course setters from across Europe have done a great job, and thanks for all of them for doing it this week. I'm sure today will be no exception. As always, these events are found on the Tempo simulator, which has been built by Libor Forst, the link to which can be found in the description. Now, today's final event is actually the first event that our planner, Pavel Patakek, has ever planned, and so I'm really excited to see what he has done today. He is a very strong competitor and one who has been in the top 5 for both the TORUS Cups so far, so I'm excited to see what he's managed to come up with his excellent knowledge today. So why don't we just jump straight into it. We are in the TORUS training week section and we're going down for day 7, which is today a 1 to 4000 map with ISOM 2007 spec, and the contours are going to be 2.5 meters. There are 8 stations and there's a 4 meter zero tolerance with no side problems. So this tends to be the most common zero tolerance that we have used, although normally it's just 4 meters without exceptions, but this extra no side problems bit means that if the feature is bigger than 4 meters, we still don't have to check for the correct side. So I think that's going to be useful. We're in a park and urban area like quite a few of the days before, and the instructions today are based around the flags, with stations 1 and 6 being real flags and 7 and 8 are drawn flags. So we're just going to have to remember between stations 6 and 7 that they are going to transfer the type of flags. But I think this is definitely looking like a good day. As always, my answers will be appearing in the top right hand corner of the screen, so you can see exactly what I'm putting at the moment that I do. And yeah, with that, let's have a go at the final day of the TORUS training week. And here is station 1. Okay, we've got the road running through, there's a load of bushes, foxtrots on a tree at the back. It's quite a big area, that tree. Where's that paved area? We've got to be at the back, so that's a 0. That tree has got to be Charlie. On the monument is a 0. On that bush will be Bravo, and on that bush round there has got to be Echo. And that was a good first station. I think there were 2 interesting tricks there with the zeros. The first one being out the photo to the left, in my opinion, because I could only see one path of paved area, and if it was definitely going to be alpha, I should be able to see a second one. But that was a good trick to open us in with. And also the one that was meant to be on the bushes by the monument, but those were the really tall green bushes, not the redder bushes with Delta and Echo on it. But that was good. That was a very interesting first station, and I definitely enjoyed it. And we will now go on to station 2. Okay, we're going down the road with the driveways, Echoes between 2 trees, wall with foxtrot out the back there. Could that be where Bravo is? That fits that. Bush, building, Bravo seems too far forward. That bush there will be Charlie. The path here must be another 0. That bush there after the hedge is Delta, and that wall is Foxtrot. So that was a slightly slower one because I was trying to get an idea of the first task, whether it was too far back or not, but I think it was better to try and do that. It was definitely a tough area. It's definitely quite hard for an urban area, to be honest, but I think he definitely planned that station well. The other 0 being outside the photo as well, I think was clear once we've worked out the sort of area and also the wall that Foxtrot was on, which we did return to in the final task. But that was very good, and we will now go on to station 3. Okay, Foxtrot's on the corner of a wall, there's the canopy and the stairs to use. That's the wrong path. Corner of the canopy, tree at the back has to be that Delta, top of the stairs of Bravo, and paved area, not the wall. And that was a very quick station to help balance out the time from the previous station. But that was a very good station. I think the first task being a 0, being on the wrong path, was good once you noticed the stairs were on the other path. And also the final task being on the corner of the paved area instead of the corner of the building. The centre of the circle was definitely not on the corner of the building with Foxtrot, and so I was happy with that one being a 0 out the photo as well. And the other 3 tasks were very good. We came to the canopy, which I did notice straight away with Echo, and yeah, I am happy with that one again. So we will now go on to station 4. Okay, we've got the trees out the back, line of 3 trees with Alpha and Charlie. Paved area at the front is Bravo. That's the wrong line of trees. That paved area, if that's the thing to the building, that's the wrong one. Furthest tree would be Echo. That's the wrong one again. And furthest tree is Charlie. And that was again another very good station. The 2 interesting tricks there were the 2nd and 3rd zeros, the 2nd and 4th tasks, being on the bits of paved area, and I think that might have caught quite a few of you out, to be honest. But once you spotted the building near Bravo and you worked up the pave areas from there, you knew that the 2 tasks must have been on the wrong ones. The first 0 wanted to be on the bit of paved area opposite the Bravo kite, rather than the one further back which had Foxtrot on it, and the second one was on the path behind us, not the one that Bravo was on, as the one that Bravo was on, as I just said, led to a building. The lines of trees was also an interesting one, with the first one being on the wrong line, and I think the other 2 tasks on those trees were good. But that was another good station. I'm really enjoying this, and we'll go on to station 5. Okay, there's the wall bits coming out, probably 2 trees out for Bravo, tree at the back, 2 trees. It looks like one's being obscured there. But that does fit as Alpha. Tree at the back is a 0. That corner must be Echo. That corner of paved area is another 0, and tree at the back of Delta. And that was another very good station. I think the hardest one there was trying to get the right tree at the start, because I think one of the trees was being obscured by the lamppost. And if some of you didn't notice that, you may have thought that Alpha was on the closest tree, but I think it did look on about the same line as the Bravo tree, and from the map that definitely would have been the case. So I am happy with that one with Alpha, but that is my least confident one in the station. The other 2 tricks of 0s with the tree that was behind the wall, and for those that put Delta will have returned to the Delta tree for the final task, so would have realised your mistake, and also the wrong bit of open land being on the wrong corner instead of the corner that Charlie was on. But that was another good one. As I keep saying, I'm really enjoying this, and we will go on to station 6. Okay, we've got this corner with a monument that we had in station 1, the tree at the back. That tree is the wrong tree. That tree is probably the right tree of Bravo. Bush at the back, we want that side, so that does look like Delta. Tree at the back is Charlie, and that tree at the back, that tree's in front of the paved area, so that must be a 0, as the tree we wanted was on the other side of the paved area to the Echo tree. And that was also the way we solved the first task as well, being on the wrong side of the paved area. But that was good. I think it was quite an interesting wide angle station, and may have tricked a couple of you up because of that, mainly the 2 0s, but I think it also was clear that the trees were the wrong side of the paved area. The bush in the monument was also good, and with it being no side problems, I should have trusted that one more, because I just wanted to check which side it was on. But yeah, that was another very good station, and so we will move on to the final 2 stations of the day, which does mean the kites will be drawn in rather than real flags, but that shouldn't affect us too much as we go into station 7. Okay, so we got the stairs with Alpha, the wall change potentially. That looks like the wrong stairs. That vegetation thicket must also be a 0. That corner of the building is another 0. That end of the wall must be Bravo, and the wall back there, could it be that? that looks too far away. And so that one was quite an interesting one with that final task. I think there were 4 zeros in that station, and the only task that I think wasn't a 0 was the Bravo kite. But I think the fact we've already had 3 zeros and then throwing us off to the final task being on the wall, and it was between Charlie, I think it was, or a 0. But I think Charlie was too far forward in my opinion. I think I definitely wanted it 4 metres to the right of where Charlie was. But I may be wrong. That's definitely one to go and check over afterwards, but I'm not going to think about it too much now as we go into the final station of the day, station 8. Okay, we've got the walls, the parallel walls with Alpha and Bravo. Charlie looks like it's in some sort of re-entrant. Parallel walls, stairs. That looks like it's on the wrong one. Wall at the back in the canopy is Foxtrot. That corner is another 0. Back over there, I'm going to have to believe Charlie's in the right place, and that fence must be Echo. And with 172 seconds, I believe that is my fastest day. I know it's one station less than most of the events, but I still think that's a much quicker time than some of my previous ones. But we will have to see whether that's with no errors. Let's have a look at station 1. And this was a very interesting station to come in on. I think there was only one station in the day I didn't put 0 for the first task, but I'm definitely confident that this one is a 0 because the tree that we want, or the bush that we want here, is enclosed by some paved area. And if we are looking here, we can only see one bit of paved area, and if this is the bush, I firstly want it to be a lot closer to the path about here, but I also want a path running this way around it and then another one behind it. So there is clearly no path there, but also where else could we be in the circle? Well, there are 3 trees lining the road here and another tree with Alpha on it right next to it, so we must actually be here with the tree by the fence, and so we can't see this tree in the photo, and so that one is a 0. However, coming into the station, you may not have been expecting a 0 straight away and so would have put Alpha. We will have to see what happens with the percentages there. This second task I think was a lot clearer. We want the furthest tree round this corner, and there are meant to be 3 trees here. However, I can only really see 2 at the moment. I'm struggling to see a third. However, in working out whether we've got the furthest one to the right or not, there is definitely not one on this grassy area to the right hand side of the Charlie kite. So Charlie must be the right hand one, and we want the western side of it. With north going downwards, that's going to flip, so we want this side of it, which Charlie is on, so that one should definitely be Charlie there. And then we go to a thicket, and we want the thicket that is going to be around the monument, which you can just see are these 4 similar ones that are very tall with the green. I'm presuming that's the monument inside that you can just see behind the lamppost. And so when knowing it's these 4 green ones, you must then work out that Delta is in fact on this bush here, slightly north of the monument, and so is on the wrong thicket. So I am confident that that one is a 0 because I want it on the thicket behind the thicket that Delta's on. Then we come back to this side of the road that we're stood on, and we want a thicket on a line, and I think if we're following these 3 trees around, we can then see that we want the thicket just after it, and so that one should be a 0, although I'm struggling to actually see the patch of open land that's meant to go between them, but I think that's possibly that there, so that one should be Bravo because there are no other thickets in that area as well. And then we go out to another thicket on the right hand side of the road, and if we go with the Delta thicket that we've already identified as being there, we want the next thicket round that path, which does seem to be the thicket that Echo is on, and so I'm happy with that one being Echo there. That was a very tough first station though for an urban area, but I think it was a very good one, and I definitely think some of the tricks there might have tripped quite a few of you up. And even so, this second station might have tripped even more of you up, and that's why I spent 16 seconds trying to work out if it was the right corner, because we want a fence corner, and Bravo is definitely on the right side of the road and is on some sort of fence corner, but is it the right one? Now when I came in, I noticed that Foxtrot was on a wall, and so when I looked down the map and I did work up from the bottom, I saw the wall, I then saw these 2 trees, which was the tree that Echo is between, and then you get the hedge just here, and then the thicket that Delta is on, then you get the building, which is the black square, and then you get the thicket that Charlie is on, and Bravo Bravo is just opposite the road from Charlie, so it must actually be on this impassable fence here, and the fence we want is a long way in the distance, so it will be in the centre of the magnifier about there, but a fair bit back from Bravo, and so I'm confident that that one is 0. But it did take me a long time as I was working up from the front, but sometimes that's the way to go. And then we go to the thicket which we have already identified as being the Charlie thicket opposite from where we think Bravo is, and so that one is Charlie. And then we come to this task, and we want the southern inside corner of some open land. Now Alpha is definitely in the southern inside corner of some open land, but is it the right one? Well, if we're going with the Foxtrot wall again, which is this one here, Alpha is just across the road from it, so it's actually going to be in this first one. As we can also see, there isn't any open land over where the van is, and so this bit of open land must be behind us in the photo, and so must be another 0. That was another interesting trick though, so if you didn't spot the wall, then that may have caught you out. And then we go for a bush, and I also think this bush was quite hard to spot, as some of you may have thought it was actually meant to be here, because looking at these two trees, you might have spotted those two instead as being the Echo 2 trees. But I think, again, working from the wall, these two trees must be the Echo trees instead, and then you get the hedge, and then you get the thicket along just before the building. And so that is clearly Delta there to me. And then we come forward to the wall, or the crag that it's been done in the control descriptions as that we've been working with since the start, and so that one is confidently Foxtrot. That was a really tough station though for the second station, especially the first task, working out if it's Bravo or 0, so if you managed to get all that right, very well done. We then come to station 3, and this was by far my quickest station of the day, but I do think it was fairly simple in its nature once you got all the features correct. The first problem we have is the northwestern side of a thicket, and we can see Alpha is on some sort of thicket, but to me I instantly saw this path and I saw it had no stairs on it, and then I saw the path underneath and saw that it did have stairs on it. So it's actually these stairs here with the Alpha kite near it, and so will actually be this thicket out the circle. So it is the wrong thicket. We actually want potentially this thicket round the corner, and that one is clearly a 0. And then we come to the canopy of the building, and if we go from the stairs, we just go up the path to the first canopy we reach, and that is the canopy that has got Echo on it. We want the northern outside corner, and with north going downwards, it's going to be the one closest to us, and Echo is on that corner. So that one is definitely Echo. We then get the task that took me the longest time, but this was just checking it was definitely on the tree at the back, because there is only one tree at the centre of the circle, and Delta does seem to be near that tree. I just wanted to glance to check it was, and to me that definitely is, and it's definitely on the northern side of that tree, and so that one should be Delta. And then we return to the stairs which we have been using for previous parts of the station, and we just look at the top of the stairs and know that Bravo is there, very nicely placed in the paved area. I know that's very hard to do sometimes, so well done for balancing it right at the top. And then finally we want the corner of some paved area, and I think some of you rushing might have easily put Foxtrot here as we move to near this corner of the building, but Foxtrot is definitely on the corner of the building, and there must be some paved area out the photo to the right hand side, so that one should be a 0 as Foxtrot is on the corner of the building instead. That was another very good station though. It was another one where a 0 was the first task, and may again have caught quite a few of you out, but to me that was probably the easiest station of the day. And then we get to what possibly then was the hardest station of the day. This one was definitely quite hard to get your head around. We firstly want a tree. We want the closest tree to us in a line. There are 3 lines in this patch, and we want the line of trees to the left, so it's clearly this tree here. And if we look up, we can see that Alpha, Charlie, Delta and Echo are all on trees on the left hand side of the road, so we need to identify whether any of them are actually the correct tree. But if we look at it, Delta and Echo seem to be on this first line of trees closest to the road, and then from Delta we move one tree on the front line to the left and we get the Alpha kite, so Alpha and Charlie must be on this second line, and then you can just see a tree here, so there must be a third line of trees to the left hand side of the photo that must be obscured by the building and just off the photo in general. So there is actually a line of trees further to the left, and none of the kites are going to be on it, so that one is a 0. And then we come to what was an even harder task, identifying the southern corner of some open land, and I say this was fairly difficult because Foxtrot is clearly on the southern inside corner of some open land, but if you're not looking carefully enough you will miss this bit here. And so once you've spotted that, you then realise that there is a building that's just poking into the photo by Bravo, and so Bravo must be on this paved area here. So the area that we actually want monument is going to be opposite Bravo by this paved area here, and I want the control to be in this corner here instead. So Foxtrot must actually be up here with the paved area near the bushes right back there, so that one is definitely a 0 as it's far too far back into the photo. We then come to the first line of trees that we reach from the road, and we've identified that Delta and Echo are on that line, and we want the furthest tree away from us on that line, which is the tree that Echo is on. So that one should definitely be Echo there. And then we come to another hard task of paved area. This time we want the northern inside corner of the paved area, and we're on the right side of the road for it to be Bravo. But we have said in the second task that Bravo is on the bit of paved area with the building, so this bit of paved area there, and so the area that we want is actually going to be behind us out the photo after we cross the next path. And so this one must be a 0 as it's too far back from us. But I think quite a lot of you might have easily put Bravo there, just seeing this bit of paved area and also potentially seeing this bit here as another bit of paved area, but to me that is clearly this path that has been mapped. And then we go up to the middle line of trees this time, and I potentially might have put a northwestern arrow in this one because I was having a small bit of debate between this tree and the middle tree, but I think to me now it's more on this furthest away tree, and so we want the furthest away tree in the middle line, and with Alpha and Charlie being on the middle line we actually want the Charlie tree out the back, and so that one is Charlie. I do think that was definitely one of the hardest stations of the day. I thought it was a very interesting station. It could have been made slightly harder with having to answer either Alpha or Bravo, because I think quite a few might miss punch and put this one as Alpha as it's right in the front of the photo, so I'm glad we didn't have to put Alpha or Bravo at any point in that. But yeah, that was definitely a really tough station, and it slowed me up a bit after that third station. And then we come to this station, and most of the time I spent on here was identifying whether Alpha was on the correct tree, but I believe it is, because in sorting out where we are there is clearly a black line around a building which must be this wall here. And then we cross some paved areas to a patch of 3 trees, so crossing the paved area we hit these trees. So it's identifying the middle tree, or the tree that's going to be the furthest away from us, and in looking in this, Bravo is on a tree to the right hand side of the Alpha tree, so must be the tree on its own. And so we have 2 more trees to identify. Alpha is on one of those trees, but I can't see any other trees, so there must be one being obscured, and the only place it could be obscured is behind this lamppost and the bin. So in saying so, this must be the left hand tree, or the closest one to us based on the map, and so Alpha must actually be on the tree that we want, and so that one is Alpha. And this was actually the only station I believe didn't have a 0 at the start, but it was a good task. It definitely made me think and took me more than half the time for the rest of the tasks, so that was a good opening task for the station. We then had to identify a tree out the back behind the wall, and quite a few of you might put Delta but will have realised your mistake later on because the centre of the circle isn't cut. However, I know that the software that Pavel has used to create this event doesn't allow you to cut the circle, so I'm not too bothered about that. I could see the tree behind the circle however, and that is the tree that Delta is on. So seeing that tree, you can also see there is a tree to the right hand side of Delta which must be the tree that we actually want behind the wall, and so that one is clearly a 0. And then we come forward onto the wall and we want a corner, and Echo and Foxtrot seem to be on corners of the wall, just are either of them on the right one. Now to identify this you need to spot that there are 4 points of the wall coming out by Foxtrot, and Foxtrot is on the second one, and you can see that they have been mapped. There are 4 little things poking out of the wall there, so we want the corner up from them, which looking at these 4 must be going up here to where Echo is, and so I'm pretty confident that that one is Echo on what does seem to be a corner of the wall there. And then we come out to the southern corner of some open land, and we want the closest one to us, and if we're looking at the shape of this paved area you can see it's wider and then goes thinner where Charlie is. However, we want the corner where it is wider rather than where it goes thinner, so Charlie is actually on the corner over here and we want the control to be just there, and so that one is definitely a 0. And then for those of you that put Delta for 52, you then realised your mistake as we went into this final problem being on another tree, but it's definitely the tree that is now not behind the wall, and Delta is definitely on the southeastern side of that tree, so that one is definitely Delta, and I think that was a good final task to round off again another very interesting station. And then we come to the 6th station, which was quite a wide angle, and I think that might have thrown quite a few of you, but I don't think it was too bad. The first task we want is on a tree, and we want the southern side of that tree, and if we spot the monument here we know that that's there, and so we want it to be on the right hand side of that that monument, and we look and we see that Foxtrot does seem to be on a tree on the right hand side of the monument. But then in spotting that Foxtrot is there, you can also see there's a path running behind Foxtrot, and if you look at the map, we actually want a tree that's going to be on the other side of that path. So Foxtrot must actually be on the middle tree, and the tree that we want must be obscured by the tree that Foxtrot's on, and so that one is a 0 as we want the tree behind it. That was quite a hard task to tell though, and so if you were still trying to get used to the wide angle and the station, I wouldn't be surprised if you put Foxtrot. We then come to a tree on the other side of the monument, and we want the first one before the paved area, and we want it in this circle shaped. So you can see the tree here, the Christmassy looking tree by the monument, and then we want the next tree to the left of it, which is the tree that Bravo's on. It's definitely on the south side of that tree, and so that one should definitely be Bravo there. And then we actually go into the monument, and we want a thicket, and we want the southeastern side of that thicket. We look into the monument, and you can see that Delta is in there, but is it on the right one? From the centre of the circle, you can see that we actually want the back one and to the right, and Delta is on the back to the right thicket, and it's definitely on the right side of it. So that one should definitely be Delta there on that thicket. And then we go out to the back, and following on from the Bravo tree, we should hit a tree on the other side of the path, and then hit 2 trees, one either side of the path, and we want the closest tree to us out of those 2 trees. So following from the Bravo tree, we cross the path and hit a tree, and then we go along and we see there's a patch of 2 trees here, and we want the closest tree to us. And Charlie is definitely on that tree, and it's definitely on the right side of that tree, so that one is Charlie there. And then finally we move to another tree, and we want it to be behind the monument, and the only real candidate here is Echo. However, it's a similar thing to with Foxtrot. The tree with Echo has some paved area running behind it, and as you can see, we actually want the paved area for this tree running in front of the tree, so Echo must actually be on the tree on the right hand side of the circle here, so that one must again be another 0, as the tree is probably this one poking out behind the thickets in front of us here. But I do think those 2 zeros in that station were fairly difficult, so if there are quite a few that didn't manage to put that, I wouldn't really be too surprised. However, I am very wary that I have put 4 zeros in this station, and with it being quite a 0 heavy competition, I'm going to go through these quite carefully just to check they are all 0s. Now this first one is at the top of the stairs, and the only stairs we can see in the photo are the stairs with Alpha, and Alpha is at the top of them. However, in working this out, we can see this water fountain at the front, and where is that on the map? It's going to be this blue circle here. Once we see that, we can also see the stairs down here, and Alpha must be at the top of these instead. And then we have the building, and there is actually another staircase here that I did miss, and Delta is near that. And then we want the next staircase along from that. So actually looking at it, I have got one of these 0s wrong. This one should actually be Echo, as it looks like it's on the top of the stairs at the back. So yeah, that is my first mistake of the day. That one is Echo rather than 0. I'm not really surprised that I did make a mistake putting 4 zeros, and I'm not really too annoyed by that one. I think that was quite a clever trick, and I definitely think Pavel's done a good job with that task there. We then move to this task though, and we want the corner of a thicket near a wall, and in knowing that Echo's here now, we have already identified that Delta is actually on this wall here by the building, and so we actually want the thicket here behind Bravo, halfway up the stairs. So it's not going to be Alpha because it's at the top of the stairs. We want the thicket down here, and so is actually a 0. So this is the first genuine 0 of this station. And then we go out to the building, and we want the southwestern outside corner of that building. Foxtrot is definitely on the southwestern outside corner of a building, but if you look here, this is the point where it comes outwards the furthest, and then we go 1 inwards for Foxtrot. However, here we have the bit that comes most outwards. We go 1 inwards for Foxtrot, which is kind of being obscured by the circle, but you can see that the 2 lines come out there for 2 different lengths, and then we want the corner after it. So it must be another corner out the photo, and so must actually be another 0. So that one's definitely another 0. And then we come to the wall right in front of us near the fountain, which we have already identified, and you can see the wall curving round, and the nearest end to it, which is the one we want, is where Bravo is. So that one should be Bravo there. And then we go back out to the wall at the back, and this is the one I was debating for a short while. I'm now thinking this one might actually be Delta though, rather than 0, because it's definitely on the wall. However, I would have wanted it slightly further to the right, but I think in doing so it goes too far behind this bush. So this one might actually be Charlie instead, and so this is possibly a second mistake, and there was only actually meant to be 2 zeros in this station. That was the task I took the longest on, however, so it definitely took a while to think about it. it, but now looking at it, that one should definitely be Charlie instead of a 0. So that is 2 mistakes. That takes me to a score of 232, which still doesn't sound too bad. We will have to see afterwards. But then finally we come to this very interesting station. It looks like a school building, and we have these parallel walls coming through and the staircase with Echo. The first task we have is on the eastern side of a tree, and Alpha is clearly on a tree and is on the eastern side of it. However, if we look, we can see there are 4 sets of walls, and there are only 4 sets of walls in the map. So in looking at that, we want the wall that's furthest away from us, and you can see that Alpha is actually on the second furthest wall away from us. So we actually want a tree that's on the end of this wall at the back, and so that one is definitely a 0. And then we come to the main building, and I hadn't quite taken enough look at this as I was still looking at these 4 really, but we want a canopy. We want the inside northwestern corner of that canopy, and if you look over here you can see there is a small canopy, and you can see that Foxtrot is on the northwestern inside corner of that canopy, and it comes down from the stairs as well, so that definitely seems to work and definitely fits as Foxtrot. Then we come to a corner of open land, and if you got the first task wrong thinking it was Alpha, you would almost certainly put Delta for this one, because it is in the northwestern inside corner of some open land, just it's the wrong one because we're using the walls again, and if this is definitely the front one, Delta must actually be on this corner, and so we actually want the corner just over the wall here. Now some of you may have also put Bravo for this because it's about in the right place. However, you can see that the stake of Bravo ends before the wall starts, and so the control mustn't actually go behind the wall, it must be on the end of this third wall, and so can't be in the corner of the open land that we want. So that again is definitely a 0, even though there were so many candidates for it, and I think that was another really good task. And then we go out to the back, and I had seen that Charlie was out the back in some sort of re-entrance possibly with the shorter stake, but now we come and we see that we actually want the end of a river, and we want it to be near this bush. We can see that there is a bush here. You can see a small bit of water actually, or that might be snow, I can't quite tell, but there could definitely be a river in where Charlie is, and Charlie looks in about the right place, so I'm happy that that one should be Charlie over there near the bush, as we've already said. And then finally we come to the stairs that we've been working with for a small bit of this station, and we want a fence on the stairs, and we want the eastern fence in the circle. As you can see there's 2, so it must be the fence closest to us, and we want the southern end, so the end at the top of the stairway. And if you look at where Echo is, you can see it's definitely on that end of the fence. You can see the 2 fences, it's the right hand one for us, and it's definitely on the southern end at the top of the stairs. And so that one was a nice task to end on of Echo, and I do think this was a really good day. There were 2 tasks that definitely tricked me a bit, but they were definitely fair and really good problems, and the rest of the day was good. I think 6 out of 8 stations starting with a 0 might have been slightly too much, but I don't think the problems were too hard, so having a few zeros in definitely may have tricked quite a few of you up. But let's go back and have a look at where I am in the overall results with 2 mistakes. I'm not expecting to be right at the top, but I could be fairly near the top. It is very near the end of the day, so we will have to see. But I am in 3rd place, only just behind Alessio and Macchia. So that is a fair surprise. I expected a few more people to be ahead of me, but that should hold fairly well. We will have to see though with about 2 hours remaining, so I will see you in a few hours time for the overall results. Yes, we are back for the last time this week, and you can see that the 3rd place that I had attained before has managed to hold. I wasn't expecting to drop too far if I did drop, to be honest, with it being quite late in the day and being so high up, but it does seem like I was able to hold the medal position for today's event. However, I think in saying that, a big well done does have to go to Alessio for winning today's event by a phenomenal margin of 39 seconds. I think that's ridiculously quick, and even with no mistakes, it shows that he could have actually made a mistake and still come first, so very well done to him. It's bumped all our scores down a lot as well. In terms of where he won the event, it does seem like in station 2 his time was a lot quicker than most of us in the top 10, although he was only the 2nd quickest in the top 10. And then also in station 5 there was a fair bit of time differential, and with most people in the top 10 making their errors in station 7, that was also where some of us definitely lost it. And then station 8 as well, he did much quicker than anyone else in the top 10, winning the final station to secure his first place. So again, very well done to him for doing so. I think that's a brilliant way for him to end off the week. Let's now have a look at the percentages for all the stations, and with station 1 it's looking like this third task is definitely going to be the worst answered, and we haven't quite gone below 50%, we're on 55% at the moment, but there was still a fair split, with most of you getting it wrong going with Delta, and a few of you went with Echo as well. 444 of you managed to notice that it was actually a 0 though, so well done for noticing that. This was the one on the bushes by the monument, and so if you didn't spot those big tall green bushes by the monument, you could have easily thought it was Delta or even Echo, as some of you did. However, the first 0 in this station was very well answered, with only 122 of you thinking it was Alpha, but most of you, 664 of you, managed to notice that it was a 0. So very well done for noticing that. I think it relied on you noticing one or two small little details, so very well done to the vast majority of you who managed to do that. And again, the rest of the station was very well answered, so we only really need to go over that one specific task. Then we go to station 2, and as we're scrolling, it's looking like this middle task again was the worst answered, although the first one wasn't too greatly answered, although it is still 76%, and only 166 of you thought it was Bravo. 17 thought it was Alpha, but I do wonder whether you missed the actual Alpha kite in this station and so mispunched. But even then you would have got it wrong, because 612 of you managed to notice that it was actually a 0. This was the one on the wrong fence, and I think, as I showed you before when you worked up, you could definitely tell that Bravo was on the wrong fence. However, I'm not really surprised, there are quite a few for Bravo there, but not as many that went for Alpha in the third task, and this is the first task that we've come to that has gone below 50%. 399 thought it was Alpha, and a couple also put Bravo, but 377 did notice it was actually on the wrong patch of open land, and so was a 0. I think because I'd noticed that Foxtrot was on the wall, that was definitely a good anchor point to tell that Alpha was in the wrong place, but if you hadn't spotted that yet, then I'm not surprised that some of you got that one wrong, so we will have to have a look at that again. However, the other 3 tasks in this station were very well answered again, so if you managed to get those right, very well done. Then we come to station 3, and it's already looking a lot greener. Mainly the first task and the last task might be the worst ones, and they are, but only in the 80% range, so they are still very well answered. The worst one being the first task, which I think some of you would have still been getting used to the map, but 644 of you managed to notice that Alpha was at the bottom of the stairs, and so at the corner of the wrong thicket. So really the percentages here are very high, so I don't really need to have a look at any of them because they are all very well answered, so very well done to all of you. We then come to station 4, and it's looking like this fourth task already is going to be the reddest. Most of you going with Bravo, but it was in fact a 0, with 42% noticing, which is 341 of you, and 357 actually went with Bravo, and a few went with Alpha as well. I think this was also one that was on the wrong patch of open land, and I'm not surprised quite a few of you put Alpha, because in terms of the lines between Alpha and Bravo, it was actually quite close between which one was which, and so if you didn't quite notice which one was Alpha or Bravo correctly, you could mispunch and put Alpha. But to be honest, it didn't really matter, because the answer to this one was a 0, and I think it was clear it was on the wrong patch of open land because it was near the building rather than on the paved area below it. But we will have a look at that, and also the first 2 zeros, it does seem like the zeros were the worst answered tasks in this event so far, although they weren't too bad here. 65% or 525 managed to notice the first one was a 0, and 69% or 555 managed to notice the second one was also a 0. The second task especially was similar to the fourth task, so I'm not surprised that one was quite low, and the first one involved quite a bit of tree counting, so again I'm not really surprised that one was fairly low, and there was quite a definitive wrong answer, but a few for the other answers as well. So we will have a look at those 3 as we go back, but well done for getting the other 2 tasks into the 90%. And then we go to station 5 as we are going down, and this one is again looking a lot greener, but maybe this second task was the worst answered, and even so it was only 73%, with 204 going for Delta, but 588 realising that this one was a 0. This was definitely the task in the station that I expected to trip the most of you up, and really you would have noticed your mistake going into the 5th task, and that one being 96% correctly answered, I think it was definitely clear you spotted it. So we will go have a quick look at that one, and we don't really need to have a look at the rest of the station because it's all above 90%, so very well done for doing that. And then we go to station 6, and as we scroll we'll see that the final task was possibly the worst answered here. This was the last one of real kites, and it's still not below 50%. We've only had 1 task task, I believe, from that so far, and it is really clean cut as what were the two answers to go for. 308 went with Echo, but 485 of you realised that the Echo tree was on the wrong side of the path, and so that one was definitely a 0. More of you managed to spot that the Foxtrot tree was actually on the wrong side of the path though. I do think the second one was a lot harder to spot, but coming into the map I expected a few more to actually go with Foxtrot, but 84% is actually a very good percentage, so very well done for that. And again, the rest of the tasks were very well answered. I think with this station being on quite a wide angle, it could have been quite difficult, but it's shown that you actually managed to do that very well, so well done to all of you for doing that. And then we come to the first station of the superimposed kites, and this is where most of the mistakes were made, I believe. I definitely found it the hardest station, and we have two tasks here below 50%. The first one being Echo on the top of the stairs. This was the mistake I made, and I only spotted the stairs after the event, so well done to the 345 that managed to notice that. 328 other people agreed with me that it is a 0, and there was a fair spread of wrong answers for the others as well. Some of you might have just not noticed the Foxtrot kite and thought Echo was Foxtrot, but yeah, so we will have another look over that because that was quite a low one, and I think that was quite a hard one to spot straight away. The third task also being a 0, that was the one on the building, on the wrong corner of the building, and if you were going too quickly, focusing too much on the second task being a 0, there was a fair chance you wouldn't have noticed that Foxtrot was on the building. So 255 of you did go with Foxtrot, but 540 of you did notice that it was actually meant to be a 0, so well done if you managed that. And then this final task, most of you went with Charlie, and I definitely think that afterwards I thought I was wrong and it was actually Charlie and not a 0, but it does turn out it was a 0. It was too far right along the wall, and so we will have another look at that as we go, so well done to the 278 of you that did manage to spot that. But again, the rest of the station was very well answered, so well done for getting even a couple of them right in this hardest station. And then finally we move to station 8, and as we scroll, this one is looking like the third task was definitely the worst answered here, and it is the final one below 50%, with there being a spread of wrong answers between Bravo and Delta, Bravo being the slightly more predominant wrong answer. However, 327 of you did manage to spot that it was a 0, so I do think that Bravo and Delta were definitely possible candidates for the correct place, but they were both clearly in the wrong place to me, and we will have another look over that as we go back as the final task to look over from this day. But again, the rest of the station here was well answered. I think we've got our highest percentages here of 97%, so well done for getting most of them right. Let's now go back and have a look at the stations for today and the mistakes that you guys made. The first one came here on the thicket of the monument, and I do think this was quite a tough one to tell if you didn't spot the green bushes here, because the bush that Delta is on could easily be that far back. But I think there are a few clues, definitely, even if you didn't spot this, because if you look at the bush with Delta, you can see there is a path running behind it, and so when looking at this path, you can see that the bush there does come in front of the path, and so Delta must be on the corner here instead. And so I think that one is clearly a 0 on the wrong bush there. If you read the centre of the circle wrong, again you would have made that mistake, but I think to me that was clearly a 0 in the station. But well done to all of you for getting the rest of the station right. I think that was a very well answered station. And again with this 0, I think most of you managed to get this one right, so well done for doing so. I don't know whether it was just most of you not really trusting that Pavel would put it on the right vent or not, but that was definitely a 0, and I did prove that earlier. And I think this one would have caught quite a few of you out because it is just on a patch of open land and you can see one poking out at the edge of the photo. But I think it is also clear that there isn't any open land below the van, so this must be the most northern one. And also with this wall here with Foxtrot on it, you can see that it does point to the upper of the two patches of open land, and we want the lower of the two. So it is definitely one out the photo and is a 0. But again, I'm not really surprised that one caught quite a few of you out. This third station, however, didn't really catch many people out at all. It was a very well answered station. Most of you managed to spot the stairs and so knew that Alpha was going to be on this thicket here, and then even more of you managed to notice that Foxtrot was on the corner of the building rather than the corner of the paved area, so it actually needs to be out the photo to the right hand side, and another 0. So yeah, there isn't really much more to say about that. That was very well answered. This station did seem to be a bit harder though. I think quite a few of you managed to notice that this was on the third line of trees, although if you read the centre of the circle wrong, you definitely could have thought it was the tree to the right hand side and so the alpha tree. But I think it is clear that the circle is centered around this tree, and being on the third line of trees, these 4 kites are all on the first 2 to the right, and so not on the tree, and so not on the line to the left, which is the line over here, and definitely a 0. So I do think that one in hindsight is definitely clear. And these 2 other zeros were definitely zeros for similar reasons, and if you didn't spot the building at the side of the photo, it was quite easy to get this one wrong. You can see that Foxtrot is in the southern corner of some open land. However, you can see another bit of paved area up here, and in spotting the paved area down here, which is opposite the building, we must know that we actually want Foxtrot to be here instead, which is the centre of the circle, and so quite far away from the actual location of Foxtrot. But it is a case of parallel features, so spotting the correct one we actually want, and in this one it wasn't the one that Foxtrot was on. And again, similarly, it's spotting the building here and knowing that Bravo must actually be on this paved area in the top of the circle up here, and so we actually want the corner that's below it outside the photo after we cross what seems to be a less distinct road. But that was another hard one to spot and did require you spotting the building again, and if you got 42 wrong thinking it was Foxtrot, you could easily think this one was Bravo. But well done to most of you who managed to spot that, and I think it was definitely a challenge of spotting the specific feature coming out, which helped us a lot. But again, I don't think that was too badly answered, and I think that was only the second worst answered station in this event. And the only task in station 5 which was badly answered, although it wasn't really too badly answered at all, was this second task. And most of you would have noticed your mistake in the final task, because it did move to the actual delta tree and most of you put delta. And I think even though the centered circle covers up the other tree, and that isn't Pavel's fault at all, it's the software that he's used, doesn't allow you to cut the circles, you can see that the tree that we want, knowing that we are stood down here, will be behind the wall, and so can't be the tree that delta's on, because we won't be able to see the kite at the bottom of the tree, and so definitely will be a 0. So yeah, I'm not really surprised that that caught a few out, and I'm actually quite pleased that this one didn't catch many of you out at all. You managed to spot that it was the wrong corner of open land, and so definitely was a 0. So very well done for doing that. And again, this 6th station didn't really catch most of you out at all. You managed to spot that Foxtrot was on the wrong tree, but then when we returned to a tree on the right hand side for the 5th task, quite a few of you went with Echo, and I think just looking down there and seeing the 2 tree looking things with Echo on the left hand one, you could easily think that Echo is on the left hand tree. However, if you look carefully, you can see that at the top of this there is a light, so this one on the right hand side is actually a lamppost, and so once you spot that, you can see that there is also a path running behind Echo, and so it is a similar problem to what we had with Foxtrot, with Echo being on this tree in front of the path and we want a tree behind the path, which must be this tree poking out from the bushes there, and so is definitely another 0 as Echo is on the wrong tree. But well done if you managed to spot that. This second to last station was definitely the hardest, however, with the first and last tasks being the worst answered, and I'm not afraid to admit that I did get this first task wrong. I didn't manage to spot it during the event, but you can clearly see now that the thicket does stop before we reach Echo, and so the gap between the 2 where the staircase is must be where Echo is, and Echo is clearly at the top of that staircase. So that one is clearly Echo. To me, I wanted the stairs to be further around the building, but I can now see that that one is definitely Echo, so well done to the 43% of you who managed to spot that. And this final 0 I did definitely think could be Charlie afterwards, but I think I can now see that behind Delta there is a wall, and you can see the grey line of the wall there, and Charlie seems to be before that wall, and we actually want it to be after the wall, so further down the wall before the bush, and so it must actually be 4 meters to the right, not what I was saying before that it is actually Charlie, and so I was right the first time in it being a 0. And I'm not really surprised that 2/3 of you thought it was Charlie. I thought it was quite hard to spot, and so that does seem to be where most of you made a mistake today if you were going to make one. But I think that's good. I think that was actually a very hard station to throw in near the end, but it was definitely one I really enjoyed, so I think that was definitely worth throwing in as another good station. And then finally, this station wasn't badly answered at all either. Most of you managed to spot that Alpha was on the wrong tree on the wrong wall, as we can see all 4 walls in the area that are on the map, and so we must know that with Alpha being on the 3rd wall, we actually want a tree that's further round, and so is definitely a 0. It was this second 0 in the station, however, that caught the most of you out, with quite a lot going with Bravo and a fair few going with Delta as well. I think it is clear straight away that Delta is on the wrong patch of open land, even if it is on a patch of open land because it is between the first two walls and we want it between the middle two walls. So I had ruled out Delta straight away, I think. It did take a brief look at Bravo, but you can definitely see that the cane of Bravo ends before the wall in front of it starts, so it must be on the end of the wall instead, and so can't be in the patch of open land, and so is definitely another 0. But if you did manage to spot that, very well done to you. And that was only really the worst answered task in this station, which did have the highest percentages, so very well done to you for getting those right at the end. And I think that brings us to the end of what was a very exciting day. I would like to thank Pavel for putting this course together. I think it was really good. It was very intricate in places and required you to spot some very specific details, but I think it was good. It definitely challenged, and I think it was a very good way to end the week. And with that, that is the end of this week of training. I have definitely enjoyed all of it. I think the only thing left to do now is go and look at the overall results for the week, and in first place for this week of training was Severin, who managed to win by 1.2 points in the end after Alessio's massive win today. He almost took first place, but it does seem like Severin was very consistent throughout the rest of the week, managing to get a win, 2 second places and 2 fourth places as well. So very well done for him for doing so. Alessio did manage to win twice and another second place, but a couple of his scores in the lower positions were fairly low. And with this 18th place being his lowest score, I think it was potentially day one which cost him the win there. But second place is still very good, so well done for him for that. And also Makia in third place after the second place of today's event. He definitely deserves the third place, with days 3 and 4 being his worst 2 counting days. Although day 5, even though his position was high, his score was still relatively low. But well done for holding on to the third place. I ended up finishing in fourth place. I think it actually was very close between the top 10 going into event 7, with 1 score missing, and that has ended up very close between us, really, between 3rd and 10th. And so I am very happy with 4th place. I think that is a good position to be ending on in this week of training. If we just take the TORUS events, I know I did win the Tormus events, but in terms of TORUS, I have managed to come 7th, 6th, 5th and now 4th. So hopefully I can keep climbing as we go. It looks like that I should be aiming for 3rd place during the TORUS Cup next month, but we will have to see how that plays out. But again, this is definitely Severin's week, so very well done to him for winning the overall event. If we look at the clubs, we can see that by no surprise Massey have won by over 60 points. That is more than 10 points a day, so very well done for doing that. I think with Alessio, Sebastiano and Marcelo all coming in the top 10, that was definitely guaranteed, so I'm not really surprised there at all. And it does seem like by a 0.8 point margin, MDOC have managed to take 2nd place. It was definitely a close fought battle, and Turin were only just behind them and are a very well deserving 3rd place, and I think anything could have happened in this final event. It was very contested for the 2nd and 3rd places, with MTV Season also just being behind them in 4th. So I think very well done to those clubs there. It was a very competitive week, and so just being in the top few was a very good result. And then we come to the countries, and you can expect that Italy were a long way ahead, but they weren't actually too far ahead. They're only 18 points ahead this time, with the Finns only just coming behind them. I think with the 2 days of forest, with being days 5 and 6, it was definitely more suited to their types of terrain, and so I'm not surprised they are very high. So it was very close between 1st and 2nd, and 3rd and 4th was even closer. There was only 1 point in it really between the Germans and the Brits, but the Germans just managed to pit the Brits in the final day. So very well done to the Germans for doing so. I think again it was a very closely fought competition, and so that is very well deserving of them. So well done to all the countries, clubs and competitors who managed to come in the medal positions for this week, and I hope you have all enjoyed this week of training as I have as well. But with this over, we don't have to wait too long for the next events, because we have the Swedish Forest Cup coming up next week, organised by Christian Emberg. That's going to be 9 days in the Swedish forest, so I think that is going to be a very exciting week and definitely different to what we've had so far. And then we've also got the next set of TORUS events coming up at the end of this month with the TORUS Trophy, and also during the whole of March. So I hope you can join me again for those events as we go. So that is the end of today's video. If you would like to like the video as always and subscribe to the channel, it just makes sure that you get notified whenever I release a video, and also it helps the YouTube algorithm share these videos, just so we can help share this sport of Trelo across the world. We didn't quite manage the target of 1,000 1,000 people on the leaderboard. I think it was about 800 across all the events, but I think looking at the numbers there, having about 950 people competing separately across the 7 days was very good. But I think 1,000 people is definitely a good target to aim for later in this series. So if you do know any orienteers that don't take part in these events, why don't you share these videos with them? I think definitely during lockdown, trailer has been a big part of my orienteering training and will definitely benefit me back in the plateau races as well as the Trailer events. So I definitely think it's great training for anyone that wants to give it a go. So definitely share these videos and get people on the simulator competing, ready for the Forest Cup next week. And also remember to be commenting below anything that you think I've missed from the video analysis wise, or anything you want me to add. There haven't been many comments recently, so I'm guessing that what I'm doing is very good and you are all enjoying it, but I will only know how to change if you tell me to, so make sure you are doing that. And yeah, with that we come to the end of this very exciting week, so I will see you again next week for the start of the Swedish Forest Cup.